news and notes to the coaches and players for America's team, let us go inside the Stars on 105.3 The Fan.
Back to the Dallas Mavericks at 6:40 here on DFW Sports Station. We're going to hook you up with Rangers tickets during the 7 o'clock expressway. Bobby has a dark roast for Edmonton and a Dallas Stars song to see if he can follow up on the greatness of yesterday.
I can't. I mean, look, yesterday I didn't think that one was going to be very good, but this one I'm very confident is not as good as that one. It's not even as good as the Whole New World Aladdin cover I did for the Rangers. So, I don't know. We'll have to see. At first I was going to go silly. I was going to go, oops, I did it again. I even wrote out all the lyrics, and then when I got to it, I was like, oh, this is way higher than I realized it was. So, it's kind of a last-minute change, and I don't know how to feel about it, but we'll find out. You guys will crush me for it if it's bad.
Yep, we will. Looking forward to it. A lot of interesting comments coming from the Ford Center at the Star in Frisco yesterday. Did you go out there?
No, I was at a lunch. I was at a lunch with some people that we worked with as we were getting things started. I will be out there today, though. So I'll be out there for practice and locker and everything else. But no, I was not at the Ford Center yesterday.
All right, we'll get to the observations coming up from DallasCowboys.com. But Dak Prescott was very interesting. And let's keep things tied in locally to the rest of the Metroplex. Is Dak Prescott jealous of the success of the Mavs, Stars, and Texas Rangers?
Nobody. I want it for him. Trust me, I want it because it only, as I said, it only raises the stakes and makes it tougher on me, and I'm for that. And so, go win it. Go win it. Rangers did it. Other two go do it. Put more pressure on us.
Okay. Very Dak-like answer right there. Put more pressure on us.
He threw an F word in there.
Yeah.
That's not always a Dak-like answer.
He spiced it up.
Did.
This is the answer you thought was pretty telling. Dak asked about the contract, blah, blah, blah. We've asked it 4 million different times, and you still have to ask it. Does Dak Prescott just not care as much about the contract and is tied to the Cowboys anymore?
I don't play for money. Never have, never cared for it, to be honest with you. Yeah, would give it up just to play this game. So so I allow that to the business people to say what it's worth, what they're supposed to give a quarterback of my play, a person of my play, leader of my play, I guess you can say. And for me, it's about, as I said, control. I can control and handle that part, and the rest will take care of itself.
Which I think that's the answer you should give generally whenever anybody asks about a contract if you're trying to avoid it. Is I leave that up to my agent. But I think the way he kind of framed it there, where it's like business decisions can be left up to the business people. I go out there and play. So my agent says what I'm worth and they say what they think I'm worth, and it's up to them to figure it out, which I think is the right answer. The issue, though, is we've talked about this, is the idea that respect. Like, are you disrespecting somebody? Because that was something that came up definitely in Dak's first negotiation for Todd France specifically.
His agent.
His agent, Todd France. I don't know that it came up for Dak the same way that it did for France, but Todd France, their first offered him. You got to remember, this was right after Goff and Wentz were getting paid, and they were getting like $32 million a year. And the Cowboys came in and offered him essentially $25 million a year. And Todd France said, "Okay, our counter is 46. That's our counter now. So if you want to throw out silly numbers, I'm throwing out a silly number too."
Yeah.
And ultimately, they settled on 40. But I mean, at the time, it was probably what I would imagine it was in that era, in that context, they thought Dak should have gotten 35. And so he goes, "Fine, I'm going to land right in the middle. You're going to throw out 25. I'm throwing out 46. So let's negotiate towards 35 now." And so it was a question of how much were they disrespecting him, or how much was Dak taking it as disrespect. So he was asked about that yesterday, the idea of how much is a contract a matter of respect. And this was the quote that I thought was really interesting. He says, "I think it depends on personal relationships and position and how much that pay can affect others, understanding where I am, what my pay means to a team and to an organization. I don't really take things personal. Maybe in my first deal, maybe things were a little different then than they are now.
Yeah.
One, it's my age and who I am, where I am in my life, and I guess the fact that first deal got done. The understanding that I have a lot of decision in this too. I have a lot of say-so too." That was the quote that made me, the very end of that made me kind of go, all right, Dak sounds about as unemotional about this entire thing as I've ever heard him. Which at that point, it seems much easier to just go, I don't feel emotionally tied here, so I can make business decisions and not take offense to it, not worry about respect or anything else. But for me and my family and the business decision I need to make, okay, well, I'm done here then. And I don't know.
That's reading into it, but I don't think it's a wild angle.
It's reading into it a little bit, but I think that
when you're disconnected, like in many arguments I get into with people and my family members, I'm going to probably raise the tone the loudest and be the most emotional and the most angry. But in one of my recent fights, I was like, I didn't even do that. Because I was just done with the topic. And I was like, I'm just letting you know I'm not getting upset. I'm not ranting and raving. I'm just really done with it with you. I'm over it with you. I'm done with it. And they kind of like were taken aback because it was like, whoa, like you're really, really done with it. You're not just lashing out. This isn't just 5-second anger. This isn't blowing off steam. It's like, no, the reality is set in. You guys don't and probably will never respect me the way I think that you should. And I'm fine if I move on. I got paid. I got a family. I got a baby. I got lifetime money. I don't have to worry about that anymore. And it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean,
that can be the scariest thing to deal with in an argument when your wife is just like, you know what? I'm not even mad. I'm over you. I'm done with it.
Yeah, I mean I know growing up, like my dad, I grew up obviously in a family with 9 kids, so. My dad had to run a tight ship and crack skulls, not literally, but you know what I mean. And the days, oddly enough, where we were expecting him to be really mad, and he was just
disappointed,
like devoid of any emotion or anything else, was like, oh, this is terrifying. Are you just bubbling under the surface, or are you that disconnected you don't even care anymore what we do? And that's the way that at least it reads. Obviously, things can read different than they sound, and we all know that Dak doesn't say anything by accident. Dak says everything the way he wants to say it. It's all very safe. He told G-Bag out at training camp a couple years ago. He said he's learned how to say a lot without saying anything at all.
And they did that bit with him.
Yeah, and he had answers ready. He knew exactly what to say. So those are the kind of things that he has loaded up. So when he says something like, I have a lot of decision in this too, and I'm not worried about getting offended or respect or anything else. That to me just sounds like he's saying there is nothing about this decision for me that is going to be emotion. This is all going to be about, all right, I can objectively look at what is best for business for them and what's best for business for me. And if those things don't line up, so be it.
Mike McCarthy was asked about number 4's deal.
Well, it's the first I heard of it. So that's how well he does. I mean, so focused on football.
Did you cut that?
No. That's him. That's the way that he'll approach things. Look, he's McCarthy the same way. He's gonna say his just like Dak, there's not a lot that he says by accident, I guess, except for when he's out at combine and he doesn't like that people talk about run the damn ball. But other than that, no, he's clearly just got no interest in that. He never talks about money. He always quotes it. He says his dad says, don't ever talk about another man's money, and he doesn't.
A lot of Tolos are interested in Trey Lance. And how does he look after a full off season? Or it's not a full off season, but basically a year? A year here now?
Yeah, well, a little less than that because he got here in right before one of the preseason games, so August of last year.
Yeah. So Trey Lance with much more time to absorb things. Here is Mike McCarthy, quarterback expert, his specialty, his area of expertise.
Okay.
Talking about Trey Lance.
I mean, there's thresholds in development for every position. I mean, quarterback's no different, and Trey's no different. I mean, obviously he had a prior experience in San Francisco, so I mean that's obviously an experience that he'll always be able to draw from. And then we're involved in a different offense, and just the way the position's played, which is it's played differently for every quarterback and every in every organization. So so my point is he's crossing the thresholds of training. I've been very, very pleased. The athletic ability is top notch. We've adjusted some things, in his, not only his motion, his, only get into specifics of that, but you can see the improvement, the timing, and in young quarterbacks, and he's no different. He just need reps, and we're trying to get him as many reps as we can throughout this offseason program, and he will take a large part of the preseason. That's the design. So him and I talk about preseason quite often because, that's what we're building towards.
DallasCowboys.com and specifically Patrick Walker basically saying Trey Lance looks like a different person and a different player in this workout yesterday. Trey Lance had several well-placed throws in full team reps to open practice, including in traffic over the middle that only undrafted wide receiver Corey Crooms was in position to elevate and grab, as Lance looks far more comfortable in his process now. Well, there were some nice reports. Take it for what it's worth. It's OTAs.
Yeah, and some of those you're going to be limited in terms of obviously what you can take away from this. I would imagine he's going to look more comfortable right now than he would have been dropped in the middle of a season after what had become a pretty, not toxic, but it had become a situation in San Francisco that he felt pretty removed from and was, just kind of be dropped in Dallas right after that. Not sure where you fit in. That's one of the things that Brian was talking about he wanted to figure out this week at OTAs was he wanted to start asking some people like, hey, what did Trey Lance's day look like during the practice week last year? What was he doing? Was he spending a lot of time in the classroom? Was he out here on the field? But
let me ask my question.
Hit me.
How is Trey Lance still not the 3 here?
Or the 2? He is the 3, isn't he?
I said, how is he still not the 3?
Yeah. Because,
when game 1 starts, he's the 3. And when week 4 comes here, he's still probably the 3.
I don't think so. I think when game 1 starts, he will be the 2. I think ultimately that's what's going to happen is he will be the backup.
Ooh.
That's what I think is going to happen. Now, I could be wrong.
Now, is that going to be because he's outplayed Cooper Rush, or we need to find out? Because it's hard to make an argument that Trey Lance is going to help you win a football game in 3 months, 6 months more than Cooper Rush could, in my opinion, right now.
Yeah, because here's the reality. You go back to high school for Trey Lance, which Trey Lance was born in. This is always funny. Trey Lance is 1 day younger than Michael Penix. And he's been in the league he's 1 day younger than Michael Penix. But you take Trey Lance going back to high school, so he's 15 years old. 2015, Dak's not even in the NFL yet. Since 2015, at all levels, high school, college, and the pros, Trey Lance has thrown fewer than 500 pass attempts. That's absurd. You have to get him work. Nobody else should take a snap in the preseason but Trey Lance. He should throw every single pass. He should be getting as much work as he can during these OTAs and during the training camp and everything else because you got to find out what you have.